Hello guys, can you hear me? Can you hear my voice? Hello? Can you hear my voice? Okay, so let's start it now. Let's start now. Today we're going to talk our V6.07.01. Welcome to join our webinar today, right? And today we're going to have 5 topics. The first topic is going to be our new PRW and PRW bit register. And the second part will be talking about our elementary arithmetic. And the third part will talk about our JavaScript action. The fourth part is we'll talk about our secure communication. The last part we are going to talk about the rest of the features of our EasyBuilder V6.07.01. All right, so let's go into the first part. The first part is our PRW and PRW bit, all right? And what it is? What is it? All right, it is a new register, right, of our CMT viewer. This register they are retentive, which means that when you close a CMT viewer and you reopen the CMT viewer, the value will be remain on the CMT viewer. All right, so let me demonstrate this part. Okay, so if I put a numeric object here and I choose the PRW here, right? So when let me change a different address. Right, so let me choose a PRW here. Right. So when let me run the simulation here. All right, so here I'm going to write a value to the PRW address here. All right, then I'm going to close the CMT viewer. Right, then let me run it again. And you will see that the PRW's address are still here. All right, so this PRW address is retentive. It will be the same when you use the PRW bit. It will also be retentive. All right, and this PRW address will each CMT viewer, for example, you watch the picture here on the HMI, on the cell phone, on the tablet. Each CMT viewer will have their own PRW, POW address. These addresses are independent, right? The PRW on the phone will not be synchronized with other CMT viewer. If I change a value on the tablet, the CMT viewer and the HMI PRW will not be changed. All right, so each register of PLB, PLW, and PRW, they are independent. Okay, but this data, because these are the registers of the CMT viewer, and if you want to transfer to the local address of HMI to maybe LW or RW or LBit, you can use combo button and action trigger. They have the data transfer. You can use the data transfer in combo button and action trigger to transfer the PRW's address to LW and RW address. Or you can also use JavaScript object to transfer the data from the CMT viewer from the CMT viewer's register to HMI's local register. Okay, so this is basically about our PRW and PRW bit register here. Okay, so let me run, now we're going to run a example here. If you have already installed V6.07.01 EasyBuilder Pro on your PC, you can follow my example. I will show you step by step about how to use them. Right, so you can follow my setup and try to practice. All right. First, I'm going to run this example here. Let me use a CMT viewer to open it. Okay, so this is an example that will give each CMT viewer a unique ID. This application has been asked before by many of our customers from different places, and they all want that each CMT viewer will have their own unique ID so that they can know, maybe they can put it on the record to know which CMT viewer has connected to the HMI, right? So we think that PRW can help the user to use this in this application here. Okay, so this is a my example here, and you can see that I have several buttons here. I can register my CMT viewer's station number. All right, so for example, if I want, I can register this CMT viewer as station 1, right? Or I can register this CMT viewer as station 2, right? So you can use the PRW address to register your CMT viewer to give it a unique ID. Okay, and I'm going to use the VNC viewer to show you that how this example works, right? All right, so the screen on the VNC viewer means that the screen on the local HMI, all right? And the CMT viewer means the CMT viewer. I use this PC to connect to the HMI. So on the CMT viewer, it means that I'm using PC to connect to the HMI, and the VNC viewer stands for the HMI screen. All right, so you can see that when I use the CMT viewer on the PC to register it as station 1, all right, so you can see that since I already registered my PC as station 1, I can no longer register my PC to station 2, so the button is hidden, right? And you can see that on the HMI, because that there's already someone else has already registered station 1. So I can no longer register station 1. I can only register my HMI as station 2, right? So I can register my PC as station 2. But when I want to remove the registration, I can just simply press remove, right? So I can release the station. Okay, so release the station number. And another thing you can notice is that you can see there are 2 word lamp here. When I press station 1, and this word lamp will be on, right? Which means that I transfer the data of PRW to LW address. So on every CMT viewer and on the local HMI, I can see that the station 1 is registered. And since I already sent the data from the CMT viewer to local HMI address, which means that you can also use this kind of data transfer to do other actions. For example, maybe you want to design that when station 1 is logging and you want it to execute some special actions or something. All right, so you can use this kind of similar theory to help you for more applications. All right, so this lamp. So when I register station 2 here, you can also see that, okay, another LW Another word that I'm using LW is also on. Right, it's also change the status to another status. Right, so this is basically what our application our example is about. Right, so that there are how we're going to make this example. You need to register, all right, you need to create a button that can register station 1. All right, but once you use this maybe CMT viewer 1 to register the longer register station 1, right? Because station 1 is taken, right? but you're going to because on CMT viewer 1 you already register station 1. You're going to make sure that on CMT viewer 1 you cannot register station 2. All right, so on the CMT viewer 1 you're going to lock the station 2 register button. All right, and the last part is that when you register the station number, this station number will be saved in HMI's local register, LW or RW. All right, so these are the three movements we want to be sure once we have registered station 1 number. All right, and the last part is that you're going to have another button so you can remove station 1's registration. Right. Okay, so this is what it takes to make this example. And all right, so here's the first step. If you have EasyBuilder Pro, you can also follow me to try to make your own example here. All right. So first is that we're going to create a combo button. All right. So let me remove this first. We're going to create a combo button here, and you're going to use different action. All right, you're going to create different action here, right? So let me go back to the our slide here. In this combo button, you're going to set PRW0 to 1 in action group 1, and in action group 2, you're going to set LW0 to 1. In action group 3, you're going to set this address on, and in action group 4, you're going to set this on. All right. In first action group, the PLW0 is the address we're going to register the station. All right. And in action group 2 is that we're going to use LW0 as the registration address of the station 1 on local HMI. All right, you need to save LW0 for this purpose. And in action group 3 is that because that we're going to use the security function to hide other button. So first we are going to use PLB1. All right. So on the CMT viewer 1, once we register station 1, we're going to hide the station 2 button on CMT 1. All right. And in group 4 is that we're going to use LB0 as the security bit, because that we're going to hide all the other, we're going to use another object to cover the register station 1 button, so that on other CMT viewer they can no longer register station 1. All right, so you can try to create a combo button and use this setting in your from group 1 to group 4. Or you can, I'll give a pause here, give it a pause here, so you can set your combo button. Right, so once you have finished the setup of step 1, now we're going to move to step 2. Is that you're going to, on the same combo button here, you're going to the security tab here, right, and you're going to enable this security option here, and the bit we're going to use now is PLB0. And you are going to change this, enable if the bit is off, right? You're going to set this option. And the action will be hide when disabled, right? So enable the security, set POB 0, and this enable condition is off, and the action is hide when disabled. All right, you can follow this setting here. Okay, then the third part is that we're going to create another combo button here. Okay, so we're going to create another combo button here. And basically that we also need to create 4 action groups, except that the address, our address are slightly different and the value will be different. The first one is that you're going to set the PRW0 to 2, and second action group here, we're going to set LW1 to 1 instead of LW0, because then we're going to save the station 2's value in another local HMI's address. All right, and in action group 3, we're going to set PLW0 instead of 1 to on, and action group 4 is that we're going to set PLB1 to on. All right. Basically, the purpose is the same as another combo button, except that this is for the registration of station 2. Okay, so basically this is a similar setting here, so we're going to move on to the next step. The next step is that on the second combo button, we're going to set the security address to POB1. All right, so the first combo button, when you press the first combo button, the second combo button will be hidden. And if you press the second combo button, the first combo button will be hidden. All right. So the only difference is that the address here is PLB1. Okay. So you just need to hide the PLB1. All right. So the step 5 is that we're going to create another combo button so we can cancel station 1's registration. So the action group is pretty similar to our first combo button to register station 1. Instead is that the value will be different. We're going to restore PRW to 0. We're going to set LW0 to 0, and we're going to turn off PLB1 and LB1 and we're going to set PLB1 and LB0 to off. All right, so the value will be opposite from our first combo button. The third combo button is basically going to cancel station 1's registration. All right, then next step is that we're going to create the fourth combo button here to cancel station 2's registration. So basically the setting is the same as your second combo button, except that we're going to set all the word address to 0, and we're going to turn off the POB and LB address. All right, so it is opposite to our second combo button. Okay, there's a question about what is the difference between PLB and LB. The difference is like what I just explained here, all right? So the PLB address will only be existed on each CMT viewer, and they are independent, all right? The PLB address, when I set the PLB 0, turn the PLB 0 to on the cell phone, the PLB address on the tablet and on the HMI, they will remain be off, all right? So they will not be moved together. But for LB address, since it is the address safe of local HMI, when I turn on LB0 on the tablet, and all the LB address on the phone and on the HMI will also be on. All right, so that is the difference. Hello. Okay. Marnix, can you hear my voice? Okay. Yes, it is normal because I'm using the slide to show you how to set up this example here. Okay. Okay. So once we have finished the fourth combo button, the next part is that we're going to create 2 bit lamps. So set the security with LB0 and LB1 so we can cover the station 1 and station 2 registration buttons. All right. So you can see that on EasyBuilder Pro, I use the lamp to cover it on the registration button here. All right. So when there are no station number are registered, and the bit lamp will be hidden, right? But once I have registered station 1, all right, there's the bit lamp will appear and cover the registration on on all the CMT viewers. So other user, they cannot use another CMT viewer to register station 1. So this is the purpose of the lamp here, the bit lamp here. All right. So we're going to create 2 bit lamp to cover the station 1 and station 2 registration buttons. All right. So you can see that the enable condition here is on instead of off, because that when this bit is off, this bit lamps should be hidden, right? Okay, so the last part is that we're going to create 2 word lamps with LW0 and LW1, LW0 and LW1, so that when there are any station number on other CMT viewers is registered on the local HMI and on all the CMT viewer, we can see that, oh, this station number is registered. Okay. So this is the setting of this is the setting of our example today. All right, so now my screen now is EasyBuilder Pro, right? You can see my EasyBuilder Pro now, right? I'm showing the EasyBuilder Pro now. Okay. So that is normal here. Okay, so this is our first part to introduce you our new feature about our PRW and PRW bit. All right. Later on, because that there are a lot of topics we need to talk about today. After this webinar, we will upload this video, recording video on our YouTube channel, and the slide will be provided to our distributors in your region. All right. So if you want to review our webinar today, you can go to our YouTube channel. We will upload it maybe tomorrow or next week. All right. And the slide you can ask from your distributor. Okay. So let's move on. The second topic today we're going to talk about is the elementary arithmetic. All right. So basically, that if you have used our let me open the project. If you know that we have a feature that is called conversion tag, you must know that when you use a self-defined tag, right, you can use, let me create number one. If you use all right, so if you can use conversion tag when you self-define the tags here, and you can use macro subroutines so you can transfer the display value, right? These features is released, I think maybe 1 or 2 years ago, right? But from now on, that we have a new feature is that we can no longer require. You only need to type the arithmetic here, so you can convert the number directly. All right, so you don't need to create another macro in the macro library to convert the data. All right, so this is the elementary arithmetic here. All right, so basically I will support the basic plus, minus, times, and divided this for arithmetic here, right? So you can transfer the value of the register directly. Okay, so let's take a look at our example today. So let me run the simulation here. All right, so I'm going to change the unit between kilometers, miles, and centimeters. All right, so once I have entered, for example, I give it like 1 kilometers, and the other numeric objects, they will show that this is, okay, 1 kilometer equals to 0.621 miles, and it equals to 1,000 centimeters. All right, so this is, so maybe when I put in 1 mile, and in the will transfer to 1.609 kilometers and 1,609.3 centimeters. All right, so I can just use this feature to change the unit, right, directly. Okay, so this is our example today. And the first numeric objects, we're going to use LW0 directly. The second numeric object, we're going to the self-defined tag of LW0. And the third part, we're going to use another tag of LW0 to do the unit transformation. Okay, so here's the first step here is that we can go to the project and press the address here. All right, and in address here, you're going to create your own tag. All right, give the tag a name and set the address to Word. And remember that the data format should be switched to 32-bit float. So it will enable this conversion option. Right. So let me use the slide. Go to project and press address sign here, and then you can create your own user-defined tag and set the data format as 32-bit float. And the address here is LW0. Okay, so the next part is that we're going to enable the conversion/calculation option here, and the data format will be set as 32-bit float as well, and we're going to choose the mode as elementary arithmetic. All right, so here we're going to enable the conversion option here and change the data format and make sure that the mode is elementary arithmetic. All right, so you can enter this mode here. Okay, so the setting is quite easy here. And here is the next part is that we're going to enter the conversion formula. Okay, which is we will transform miles between kilometers. Right, so you're going to type in the formation of the formula here, right? The dollar sign with a V here means that this is your register value here. All right, the dollar sign is with a list V means that this is the variable, the value inputted from the LW0. All right. And we're going to, because that we're going to transfer from kilometers to miles, which means that we're going to divide it by 1.6093 to change the kilometers to miles. So this is the read conversion. Once we have entered a value in the LW0, and this when the object using this tag will be transferred to miles. Right. So once you have entered the so let me open it. You can use test, press test button. All right. So you can input value. For example, I give it like 1 kilometers. Right. You can see that if the result is correct, if this should be the correct miles be transformed. Okay, so also when you have entered a value in this tag, give a value for this tag because the unit is miles, so you're going to make sure that the original LW0 is going to show the value of kilometers. Right, so let me put the value here and I give it like a mile here. You can see that the LW0 here will be 1.6093. All right, so this basically means that our formula is correct here. All right, and the fifth part is that we're going to create another user-defined tag so we can convert between kilometers and centimeters. All right, so we're going to create another tag here. And the setting is the same, right? The address should be LW0 and the format, the data format should be 32-bit float here. All right, so in conversion, we're going to enable the conversion option, and data format will also be 32-bit float. The mode will be elementary arithmetic. And the read conversion, we're going to times for like 1,000 because it is going to change from kilometers to centimeters. And the write conversion, we're going to divide it by 1,000 because we're going to change centimeters to kilometers. All right. So this is the setting here. I'm going to give you a moment so that you can play with this feature for a while. Okay, so you're asking me to show tag 0 again. So I'm going to open tag 0 here. All right, so here's the setting of tag 0. Okay, so Hans here, he asked a question is that, can you do the same with the POC address in the device setting? Yes, of course. You can also create a POC address using this self-defined text to change them on the HMI. But I must tell you that because this is only a display conversion, all right? So when I use a, for example, when I only use it for display purpose, all right? Which means that maybe a POC address, it is using a kilometer as address, but when I use a tag to show miles, then this miles value will not be written into the POC. Okay, so this features is mainly for display purpose, all right, but will not change the value of the POC, all right. Oh, all right. So there's another question here is that we have to use array size too, or it is not a must. It is not a must, but I will explain later that what the array size is for. Okay, so here we're going to move on to the next step here. All right, so here's the conversion for second tag. The next part is that we're going to create 3 numeric objects. All right, so you can see that on my EasyBuilder Pro, the first one for kilometers is that the address will be LW0. All right, the original the original register, LW0 here, for kilometers. For miles, we're going to choose the tag, all right, we just created, all right, the tag 0 we just created, all right, to display the unit miles, all right. And the third numeric objects, we're going to choose the second tag, which is tag 1, all right, so it can transform between the kilometers and centimeters. So let me show the slide here so you can compare the different settings here. All right. Basically, I'm just using different tags. Okay, so once you finish the setting, you can try to change the unit, right, to transform the unit, right? So the last part is that I'm going to explain about the array option. The array option here is mainly because that maybe you want more register, all right? So you can also share this arithmetic. For example, I just create arithmetic to a calculation, so I can convert kilometers to miles, but only for LW0. What if I want more addresses also share this conversion? All right, so here I can enable the array option here. If I have enabled the array option here with size 2, which means that LW0 and LW2 will share the same conversion together. Oh, yes. Oh, right. Sorry, that was a silly mistake here. The unit here should be meters, not centimeters. Sorry, you're absolutely right, because someone has pointed out. This one should be meter, not centimeters. Sorry, this one, right? Because that times 1,000 should be meters, not centimeters. If I want to transfer to centimeters, I should enter like 100,000, right? So this unit here should be meters, not centimeters. All right, but let's explain about the array here. Okay, so once I have enabled and set the array as 2, which means that LW0 and LW2 can share the same arithmetic here. All right, so here you can see that here this one is using the LW0, and here, all right, for the LW0 here, I need to choose tag 0, but I'm going to choose the first array. All right. All right, so let's take a look at the numeric object on the right side, and we can see that the address here, we're going to use LW2, because I remember that the data format is 32-bit float. So the address here should be LW2 here. All right, and then on the miles, the object to convert it to miles, between miles, is that we're going to choose the second array of tag 0. Right? So let us run the okay, so I enter kilometers 1 into LW0. All right, so you can see that the other, I'm sorry, I should run the simulation again. All right, so on the first tag, I'm going to enter 1 kilometers in LW0. So you can see that, okay, so the other tag 0 and tag 1 are also changed. So here I'm going to also enter 1 kilometers in LW2 here. Okay, so you can see that the unit are also changed. Okay, so this is what array does. Okay, so this is what the array does. So that all the continuous address, it can share the same conversion formula here. Another question is that can we directly switch the type, maybe from a float to a integer? All right, it is allowed, right? But make sure that the original data type, it must be the original data type, right? You must set float, 32-bit float, right? So you can enable a calculation option here. In the data format here, you can change to 32-bit unsigned. All right, so it is allowed. All right, so you can, depends on which data format you want to set here. All right, so you can set like a 32-bit unsigned or 32-bit signed. It is not necessary to set it as a float here. All right, so you can decide the transform, the transform data type here. Okay. Okay, so this part is about our elementary arithmetic here. Okay, so let's move on to the next part is our JavaScript action here. Okay, so the JavaScript action is that it can be used in any action group. All right, so let me open my project here. Excuse me. All right. So any objects that you can set up a action group. For example, a numeric object here, right? So you can always create a JS action here. You can choose the execute JS here, so you can start to write the JavaScript code. So also with the combo button here, right? The combo button, right? Combo button here, you can also execute JavaScript here. And in action trigger, you can also execute a JS code here. And also for the, right, so let me open one. For our capacitive model like 3162X, because it has a touch gesture. For our capacitive model, sorry, let me find where it is. All right, so only for the capacitive HMI, it has the touch gesture, but you can also create an action group that executes JavaScript. All right, but this is only for the capacitive screen HMI. Okay, so all the features all the objects that can execute has action groups. You can all use them to execute a JavaScript code here. All right, so this is our new feature. Right. So you might notice that for this action group, you can also execute macro. All right. So what are the advantages of using JavaScript action? Excuse me. The first advantage is that you can use JavaScript action to connect web API to get the information from our website. You can use JavaScript action to do it. All right. The second advantage is that for the users, they know JavaScript already. They don't need to learn macro again. They can just directly use the JavaScript to do the action they want. The third advantage is that there are a lot of JS code existed on the internet. So the user, you can just go to the internet and implement the code directly. So you can copy them and paste them into the EasyBuilder Pro directly. All right, so because they are already existed JavaScript source code. The fourth part is that when you use JS action, the HMI will execute next action after JS code is finished. All right. If you use macro, the next action will be executed once macro is started. Right. So let me explain the fourth part. All right. So for example, all right, on the left side you can see that the first action group here, I will execute JavaScript, right? And the action group that it will execute a set bit to set LB1 on, right? And on the second picture, the first action is execute macro, and the second action is also set bit, set LB1 to be on. All right. So let's look at the right side. When the JS code is started, the set bit will only be executed after the JS code is finished. All right. But if you use a macro in action group, once the macro is started, the set bit will be executed directly. All right. It will not wait until the macro is finished. So the set bit might be triggered earlier before the macro is finished. All right, so this is the difference here. All right, if you use JS code in action group, the next action will wait until the JS code is executed. But if you execute macro in action, the next action will not wait until the macro is finished. It will execute next action directly. All right, so these are the difference. This is the difference of using JavaScript action here. Okay, so let's take a look at another example here. On the top right corner, okay, on the following page, all right, on the following page, every page on the top right corner, I provided a link. So you can download this project directly to your PC, so you can just run your PC to see the source code inside of it. All right, because that maybe there are many people maybe you haven't learned JavaScript, maybe you don't know how to write a JavaScript. So we provide the project you can download. So after this webinar, you can study the project, all right, or maybe study JavaScript to understand what the code is doing. All right. So okay. So let me run the simulation here. So basically this example is going to use a web API to connect to a weather website of Taiwan. All right, this is our government agency's website. It will connect to their website and get the weather information from that website here. And so I'm sorry that because I use Chinese to display the information, because I also want to show you that you can display a unit code text on the ASCII object. All right. So what this line says is that I will just translate to you is that tonight and tomorrow morning it will be clouded and sometimes it will be with sun, and the temperature will be like 26 degrees. All right. This is the information of this this text here. All right. So this information is I execute a JavaScript code and get the information from our government's weather website directly. So we are using Web API to get the information. So this is mainly that this example is about. All right. So the next part. So I'm going to give a rough explanation because that it's not possible I will explain every code or how to write JavaScript. So I will give a rough concept about which part of the code, which is for about the purpose of this part, and I'll give a rough explanation. All right. So I'm afraid I'm not going to give a detailed explanation. We will not go too deep about the JavaScript code here. All right. So the first part is that we're going to create a combo button. All right. So if you already download the project here, you can double click on the combo button, and you will see that the first step is we're going to set Word. Let me switch back to the slide so you can download the project. All right. So you can open the combo button on this project, and you can see that you're going to create a set word and going to set word action to set LW100 to be 1. All right. The next part is that we're going to execute JavaScript in action group. So create add execute JS action here and create a address here and give it the value to be word and the address to be LW300, and make sure that the name here is value because that we're going to use this value as a variable in our JavaScript code. So the name here should be value, the type is address, and the address here should be a LW300 here. Okay, so on every slide, on the top right corner, you can always see this download link here. All right, so I'm going to, because that there are only 30 minutes left, so I'm going to speed up. Sorry, I'm going to speed up about this our webinar now. All right, so the first part, the next part is that we're going to write the source code, and you can see in your project that the source code is already inside. So in case that there are some of you don't understand about JavaScript code, I'm going to give a simple concept, a basic concept here first. The first thing you need to know about JavaScript is how JavaScript is executed. The order, it is not like our macro it is going from the first, the execute sequence is not from the first line, the top line to the bottom line, okay? It is not like that. The execute order is kind of different in the JavaScript action. For example, for this code here, I need to define a function A first. I need to define a function. This function's name is called add. All right, I need to define this function add here, and A here can be a variable, a function, or an object. All right, so inside this add function, what it will do is that whenever no matter which value I enter, I give it to A, right? It will +1. All right, this is for add function does. All right, after I define this function, I will execute this function by giving A a value. So you can see here on the left side that B equals to add 1. I use this add function and I give a value 1 to add function. Right, so the JS action, the JavaScript code will be executed here. Right, so the function, the first line and the second line of this code here, it is only for, you need to define this function first. In the last line of the code that you will actually execute this function. All right, so you need to define function first and run the function after. And the result of this function add here is 1 + 1 equals to 2. All right, so this is the first concept of JavaScript, that it is different from the macro, that it is not execute from top line to the bottom line. All right. Okay. So let's move on. So in this source code, we need to do 3 parts. The first part is that we're going to define a function to load the information from target website, which is the weather website. We need to load all the information from our weather website. All right, and we need to create a function to do that. And the second part is that we are going to define a function to search the information we need. Because on the first step, we have created a function that will load all the information from a website, but we only take part of the information we need and write it into our ASCII object, right? So the second step is that we're going to define a function to search the information we need, and we're going to write it into our LW address. And the third part is that we're going to pass the parameter, pass the value to the 2 functions above to execute these 2 functions. All right, so remember what I talked about earlier is that we're going to define function first, and we're going to give the function a value to execute the function. So in the JavaScript code you have here, the first 2 parts is we're going to define the function, and we're going to execute the function in the last. So you can see that the main structure of the code you have here, the first part will be define get function. This get function will load the information from website. The second part, we're going to define a function called parser. All right, this parser function will search the information we're going to write into LW300. The last part is that we're going to execute the functions. We're going to pass parameters to execute these 2 functions above. Right, so these are the main structure of the code. All right, so I'm going to give a quick explanation about our code here. Is that we're going to define a function to get function here, right? So there are 2 parameters of this get function. The first one is OPT. It is where we enter the URL, pass the URL link of our target website. So the get function will know, okay, which website I need to get the information from. The CB is also not a variable. It is a function. Right? Remember what I just explained here, that the A here, is not necessarily to be only a variable. It can also be another function. All right, so the CB here is a function that will receive the website information and transfer this information into the string data type. All right, so the CB part will be quite complicated because it needs to do a lot of things. You need to get the information, the parameters from the website, and it will transfer all this information into string data type. Right, so from line 12 to 25 is that we're going to use a curl function. It is a built-in function which is defined in EasyBuilder Pro. So this function is not a general function of the JavaScript. It is a function created by ourselves, and we have defined it and save it in EasyBuilder Pro, so you can just use the curl function directly. The usage of curl function is to read the information from the website. Okay, if you want to understand the details of the curl function, you can, okay, let me open. In the JavaScript code here, there's a JS Object SDK. All right, so you just press this here, and you will go to our JavaScript SDK webpage here. And on this webpage, it will explain about what is curl, easy curl multi, about this curl, what can curl function do. All right, so just go to our SDK website and you will to see the explanation of the curl function. All right, so next we're going to move on from line 26 to 46 is that we're going to load the website information acquired by curl, and we're going to give the parameters to new variables. All right, and we're going to load the website parameters because it has maybe have some IP when you're going to get the IP, get the time, get the port, these kind of parameters from the website, and load the website information into another variable called body. Right. See line 41 here. Here's a var body here. It is a new variable, and we're going to put the website parameters into body. And we're going to use CB function to process these variables. All right. So the response variable here will save the parameters of the website, and the body here will save the information, the actual information of this website. And we're going to use CB functions to process these variables. All right, so from source code line 51 to 66 is the second part. We're going to define a parser function. All right, so it will filter the information we need. All right, so on previous function, we already get the information from the website, and the data type will be transferring to string. So here we're going to use this parser function to search the keyword of the string, so it can locate the information we need, we want to display on ASCII object, and then we're going to write the information we need into LW300. All right, so this is mainly what this parser function does. We need to locate the information we need. All right. All right. So here, starting from source code line 68, is that we're going to clear the value in LW300. Right, so we're going to execute starting from line 68. This is where the JavaScript program starts to execute. First thing we do is that we clear the value in LW300 here, and from line 70 to 80 is that we're going to execute this get function and the parser function. All right, so we give it a load the parameters. For the first OPT variables, we give the website of our the URL of the website, right? So this is the Taiwanese government weather department's website here. We give the website, so the get function will know where will I get the information. Okay, and the CB function here will run the CRL functions to process, to get the information from the website above. And the last part is that it will filter the information we get from the website and only write the information we need into LW300. All right, so this is mainly about our JavaScript code here. But to be honest, that I put all the code together just because that it is easier for me to explain the code here. But actually, if you want to use the JavaScript code here, sorry, excuse me. All right, so if you go to our SDK website here, you will see a category here called Web Request. Right, the proper way. So if you also want to do the same thing, to use the web API to get the information from our website, you can just do this. All right, so on the website here, there's a download link here. You can just download this request .js file here. It contains all the code here. All right, and once you have downloaded this part of the code, and you can just go to the JS resource, and you can just import the file. You can just import this JS file. Then in your code, you only need to put this part of the code in your JS action. But of course, that you also need to write a parser function so you can locate the information you need. All right. So this is the traditional way. For my example on the slide, I delete part of the code because that they're not necessarily needed in my example. But if you want to use to try the web API for different websites, you should download the code here and write another part of the implement. You need to refer to the code here. You need to write your own parser function to locate the information you need here. All right, so just tell you that what you should do. If you're going to put your website in my part of the in my example here, it may not work because that the first of all is that different HTTP website, there are different catch, there are different parameters, there are different express ways. So you better use the source code I mentioned on our SDK website here. And the second part is that for different website, the parse function will be different because the keyword you want to search is going to be different. So you need to rewrite your parser function so you can load the information you need and display them on your HTML. All right. Okay, so the next part is that we're going to add the set word in next action group to set the LW100 to be true. The purpose of it is because that, all right, let's take a look here. The purpose of that is that we use LW100 to show the progress of how JavaScript code is running, right? Because that earlier when I mentioned it, right, because that I have explained here is that for the action group here, the next action will only be executed once the JavaScript code is finished. So here in my example, first I give a value to LW100, and once the JavaScript code is finished, I will set another value into LW100 so we can know that the JavaScript has already finished executing. All right. So the next part is, of course, that you need to create a ASCII object and another word length. So you can finish this example here. Okay, so because that the JavaScript, maybe that many of you don't know how to write JavaScript, so this is the because the time and it's not possible for us to teach you the JavaScript, so I will only give a rough explanation here. Okay, so the next part is to talk about our secure communication here. And these new features that allows you to encrypt the communication between CMTX. And the protocol, the security protocol we need, the version we need use is TLS. The version is 1.2. All right, we use TLS 1.2 to encrypt the communication. So if you are using a CMT viewer to connect to to a HMI, the communication can be encrypted. If you use a CMT diagnoser to connect it to the HMI, the communication can also be encrypted. And if you use another CMTX, all right, here you need to notice that only CMTX, you use CMTX as remote HMI and connect to another CMTX, the communication can be encrypted. If you are using a IE series connect to a CMTX, or using a CMTX connect to the IE, the communication cannot be encrypted. All right, both the local HMI and remote HMI needs to be CMTX, so the communication can be encrypted. All right, so we provide this feature is because that the data secure has become an important issue in smart factory, because the people cares about their data secure more and more, right? And as the leader of the HMI industry, we are more serious about the security issue than other competitors, right? If you look at other competitors, there are still many manufacturers, they don't provide this kind of features, right? So we provide the security, secure communication feature first. All right, and if you work for a big corporation, or you're trying to sell your machine to a big corporation, the data security issue is especially important for them. All right, so if you are going to try to promote your product to your machines to a big corporation, you can tell them that, oh, we have the secure communication, we have better security feature, so that you don't need to worry about your data security issue, right? So that is why we provide the secure communication feature here. All right, so in EasyBuilder Pro, let me open my EasyBuilder Pro here. All right, so, let me open system parameters here. If I want to encrypt the local HMI, I just double click on the local HMI, and here's an option. Here's an option here called Enable Secure Communication. Once I enable this communication, when you're using CMT Viewer and CMT Diagnoser connecting to this HMI, the communication will be encrypted. All right, so you need to enable this option in local HMI. All right, but if you want to, sorry, not this option. If you want to encrypt the communication between the remote HMI, you're going to enable this option in the remote HMI here, right? Because in remote HMI, you're going to set the IP here, and if you want to encrypt the communication, secure the communication, you're going to enable this option in remote HMI here. All right, so the setting is actually quite simple. You only need to enable these two options so you can secure your communication here. All right, but actually the security issue is more and more important recently, so we provide these features for you and your customers. All right, the last part, we're going to introduce the rest of the features of V6.07.01 here. All right. The first small feature is that we provide a set fixed all object here. Let me open a right. So basically, let me go to this view. Right. Go to the view tab here, and you will see that there's an option called Fix All Objects. Once you have enabled this setting here, when I cannot move any object. I cannot move any object on the window. Right. When I choose all the objects, I cannot use my mouse to move them. All right. So this is Fix All Objects. But yeah. But you can see that if you press the direction key on your keyboard, this object will still be moved. But we were going to fix it in the next version of V6.07.01. All right. So at this moment, in your EasyBuilder Pro, you can still use the keyboard to move them. But next version, once we update it, then you can no longer use the keyboard to move the object here. Right. And the next part, the next new feature is that we provide different connecting mode. Now you will be able to use the implicit and explicit FTP over TLS to connect to the FTP. And okay, here's another part of that. In the recipe database, you will be able to change the language of your item name. All right, so let me open my project here to show you. All right, so in this here's a recipe viewer here. Okay, so you can see that the item name here is item 1. So here's the address I switched the language. So when I switch to language 1 here, all right, you can see that the item name of the recipe viewer has become Chinese. All right, so I can switch them between the English and Chinese. So started from this version, you can switch the language in for your recipe item name. Right? And the next part is that, excuse me. The next part is that for the SQL server, you will be able to customize the timeout of connecting timeout, the read timeout, and write timeout. You will be able to set these parameters in the SQL server properties here. All right. And in MQTT, you can set the minimum time between message in published topics. Right? You can set that how long will I send on the next published topic, the same topic. All right, every milliseconds. Right, so you can set the minimum time. All right, and for the backup object here, you will be able to set the time range to backup. All right, so let's go to EasyBuilder Pro here and make sure that you have already set a data sampling here. All right, data sampling. All right, you can set the data sampling, you go to the backup object here, and you choose the file source to historical data sampling, and you will be able to set the and you choose the word external trigger with word here, and you will be able to set the start date or the time range. All right, so you can basically set different time range here. Right, you can set the time range. All right, so let's go back here. You can set the start year, the month, the day, the hour, the minute, and you can set the end time of the year, year of end time, the month, the day, the hour. Right, you can basically set the time range for your backup object. All right, so this is another new feature here. All right, and the other part is that we have supported the trigger action in ASCII object. So now in ASCII object, you can also to create different action groups in ASCII object here. All right, and the last part, the last feature here is that we're going to support. You can use remote HMI as an external server of enhanced security. If you have used our enhanced security of CMTX before, you might know that we already support. You can use a LDAP server, right, to sync all the HMI. Once you have installed a LDAP server on your PC, so all the HMI, you can sync all the user and password information at the same time. Or you only need to use your PC's LDAP server to update your login information. Right, but now we also started from this version, we also support you to use a remote HMI as the server here. So you can just use one HMI to manage all the user enhanced security, the user name and password. You can use it to manage them, and you can update all the secure the user and password to all the other CMTX HMIs. All right, just use the HMI, so you don't need to prepare a PC or install a LDAP server. Use CMTX HMI, you can share this user and password information to sync with all other CMTX. All right, but there's one thing I want to say here is that the name here is called remote HMI, right? But it is because we just name it the same as another remote HMI, which means that I don't need to create a new remote HMI in any HMI project. All right, there's no need to create it here. It is just called the name is the same as that the remote HMI in device, but you don't need to enable remote HMI here. All right, you only need to choose this remote HMI and set the IP here. Or you only need to set the server IP here, and you can sync the user password from that HMI server. Right? We name it with the same remote HMI name, but it is actually not the remote HMI we used to know. All right, so I just want to clarify about that part specifically. All right, so these topics are the what we talk about the new features of our V6.07.01 today. And so if you have any questions, you're welcome. If you have any question, you're welcome to typing, and we will answer you the question. All right. So there's a question. You ask that, can you access to the recorded video? Right. The video we will upload no later than next week. It will be on our YouTube channel. All right. So I will go to our, let me show you our YouTube channel here. All right, just go to the YouTube and enter Weintek here. All right, just enter Weintek. All right, so enter Weintek here. And in the, sorry, this is use Chinese interface here. So there's a category, a playlist called Weintek webinar. Our latest webinar will be uploaded here. All right, and there are also other videos of on our YouTube channel. You can also check them. For example, we have made a lot of the we have made a lot of tutorials also on our YouTube channel. Wait, what's wrong with my PC? Sorry. Shit. All right, anyway, you can also find a lot of new tutorials on our YouTube channel, right? And we will also upload this webinar's recording video on our YouTube channel here. Okay, do you have any other question? Do you have more question?